Tom Cruise, why do you run so much, man? Tom Cruise running in a mummy movie. What could possibly go wrong? Well, apparently everything. What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Skid Reviews, and today we're gonna be reviewing The Mummy. Now, I watched The Mummy last night, and short review, it's shit. It really sucks. It's a bad movie, man. The Mummy monster franchise has never appealed to me much. Even the original films, I was never a really big fan of those movies. And this one, well, it didn't change my mind either. I think this one was even worse than the originals. This movie made Tom Cruise boring, which is a very hard thing to do because say whatever you want about Tom Cruise as an actor or even as a human being, but he's a very good actor and he's very rarely not entertaining. This movie was just Tom Cruise falling in and out of vehicles and running around in all directions. I mean, yeah, I know he likes to run a lot in his movies, but this was a tad bit too much. I will give them this, the action sequences were big and bombastic and epic in many places, but I think those big bombastic action sequences kind of overshadowed the horror and monster movie feel of the Mummy, and it's supposed to be a horror and monster movie, isn't it? It's not an action movie, and that was one of my main gripes with this movie. So how disappointed was I? Well, let's jump straight into the review of The Mummy. The Mummy made Tom Cruise running boring. How is that even possible? This movie is so relentless and exhausting and lacking in genuine intrigue that by its end, we struggled to find joy even in Tom's legendary gait. It begins with a good idea, establishing a cast of morally suspect characters rather than infallible heroes. Cruise plays Nick Morton, a roguish US soldier who stumbles across the mummy's cursed grave by accident. There's also Jenny Halsey, played by Annabelle Wallis, and Dr. Henry Jackal, played by Russell Crowe, the man in charge of a mysterious organization tasked with monitoring the world's monsters. But that's before we even get the monster herself, Princess Amaneth, played by Sofia Boutella, and her agenda to bring about the end of the world. There's a lot going on, too much for my taste. As a consequence, we come to know most of them only superficially. The obvious pressure to lay the foundations of a wider universe has an immediate impact on this movie. I never came to think of Cruise's character as anything more than a lying cheat who would occasionally do the right thing. Cruise is perfectly fine in an unchallenging role, but there isn't enough time to make Nick into an even generic, lovable rogue. Additionally, reimagining Dr. Jekyll as a monster hunter has obvious potential, but like so many of the neat ideas stashed away in this movie, there's never enough time to explore it. The Mummy herself suffers even more, despite a strong introduction. When she first emerges from her sarcophagus, she is surprisingly disgusting and moves with a creepy, joint-snapping rhythm that is distinct from anything I've seen in another zombie movie. She's a formidable presence when creating chaos and reawakening the dead, but her final form lacks the visual flair that was always a hallmark of Universal Studios' classic monsters. But there's a deeper discrepancy. Unlike the very best Universal monsters, you're never given cause to feel an ounce of sympathy for her plight. She isn't a tragic romantic like Boris Karloff's Imhotep. She was a bad person in life and now is resurrected to do very bad things for no specific reason, apparently. It's hard to see her as anything but a rather traditional and one-dimensional villain. Ultimately, she feels more like a prop than a conflicted, complex character. The Mummy's lack of characterization isn't helped by its deafening set-piece action. From the moment we meet Tom Cruise's character, the movie accelerates towards a breakneck pace from where it rarely escapes. There's a middle section where he's endlessly falling into and out of vehicles, fighting hordes of zombies and generally running in lots of directions. You learn almost nothing about these characters during these lengthy sections, apart from that they appear to be in good shape. The action isn't bad, but for the most part offers nothing witty or original, and by the end of it, it simply becomes fatiguing. So was it all bad? No, there are moments to enjoy, and almost all of them involve the Mummy embracing its horror roots and finding a way to meld that imagery and atmosphere with its action. There's a great fight that takes place in a ruined Gothic abbey in the English countryside. The moon is out and the crumbling church is shrouded in fog. It feels almost like you've wandered onto the set of one of those classic monster movies that inspired this one. But these assured elements of horror are eventually unfortunately overwhelmed by the louder moments. I wish it had been the other way around. So the verdict? Well, The Mummy isn't completely rotten, but given its heritage and larger ambition, it feels frustratingly generic and unfulfilling. There are moments where it reaches out for horror and produces something interesting and distinct from Hollywood's other blockbusters. But those moments are buried underneath unremarkable and by the end tedious action sequences. As the first chapter in the coming Dark Universe films of Universal Studios, The Mummy contains glimpses of promise and potential, but it's far from the most solid foundation. Universal Studios, I think, can do a lot better. So there you go, that was our review for The Mummy. Some of you guys have suggested that I start giving out ratings in my movie reviews. I have always hesitated from giving ratings because ratings are so ambiguous, and you know the scale, the rating scale is so clustered. What do? Do I mark it out of 5 or mark it out of 10? It's very subjective and it's very unfair to certain movies. But if you guys want a rating, then I can begin giving you ratings of movies. So let's start with this one. Well, a bad one to start with, but nonetheless, there you go. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give The Mummy a 3.5. Yes, a 3.5, and that's coming from someone who really likes Tom Cruise. So what did you guys think of The Mummy? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more content, maybe you can leave a like or maybe you can subscribe. The button is down below. Takes only a second and helps us out a lot. So until next time, I will see ya.